You're hiking along a riverbank. Maybe it's a weekend trip, maybe it's just a walk behind your property. You look down and you see rocks. Hundreds of them. Some are smooth, some are rough, and most of them look like absolutely nothing special. You might kick one, you might toss a flat one across the water, and then you keep walking. What you probably don't realize is that at some point during that walk, there's a very real chance you stepped right over something worth more than your car, maybe more than your house, and you didn't even glance at it because it was ugly. If that sounds dramatic, consider this. Some of the most valuable gemstones ever discovered on this planet were found sitting in plain sight, disguised as the kind of rocks most people wouldn't bother picking up. They weren't sparkling, they weren't colorful, they weren't calling attention to themselves. They looked like dirt, like gravel, like something you'd pressure wash off your driveway without thinking twice. Today we're going to look at why the ugliest rocks are often the most valuable, why your brain is trained to walk right past them, and what gem hunters and geologists have known for decades that the average person still doesn't. Let's start with the one that fools almost everyone, the raw diamond. If someone handed you a raw, uncut diamond and didn't tell you what it was, you would almost certainly throw it away. That's not an exaggeration. Raw diamonds don't look anything like the stones you see in jewelry stores. There's no sparkle, there's no fire, there's no brilliance. A rough diamond fresh out of the ground looks like a small, greasy pebble. Sometimes it's slightly translucent, sometimes it's cloudy gray, and in many cases, it looks like a piece of dirty glass that got scuffed up in a parking lot. The famous Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality rough diamond ever found, weighed over 3,100 carats. When it was pulled from a South African mine in 1905, it was sitting right there in the wall of the mine, partially exposed. The mine's surface manager, Frederick Wells, spotted it during a routine inspection. Imagine how many workers had walked past that exact spot before he noticed it. Imagine how many people looked right at it and assumed it was just another piece of quartz stuck in the rock face. That single stone was eventually cut into 9 major gems, including the Great Star of Africa, which sits in the British Crown Jewels today. Its estimated value exceeds $400 million, and before Frederick Wells pulled it from the wall, it looked like nothing, just a shiny lump in a dirty mine. That's the problem with ugly rocks. Your eyes aren't trained to see value. Your brain makes snap judgments based on appearance. Shiny means good, dull means worthless, smooth means interesting, rough means garbage. And gemstone hunters will tell you that those instincts are almost always backwards. Now, let's talk about something you may have actually seen without knowing what you were looking at: geodes. From the outside, a geode looks like the most boring rock on the planet. It's round, it's gray, it's covered in what looks like dried concrete. If you found one in a field, you'd probably assume it was a chunk of old construction material, maybe a ball of hardened mud. You would never in a million years guess what's inside. Crack it open and you might find a hollow interior lined with perfectly formed amethyst crystals glowing purple and violet under any light source, or citrine or agate banding in colors that look like they were painted by hand. Some geodes contain formations so perfect that museums pay thousands of dollars for them. The state of Minas Gerais in Brazil has produced amethyst geodes the size of refrigerators, with interiors so stunning that they've been displayed in natural history museums around the world. And every single one of them, from the outside, looked like a gray lump of absolutely nothing. There's a reason geodes are often used as a metaphor in psychology and self-help. The idea that something extraordinary can hide inside something ordinary. The difference is that in geology, the metaphor is literally true. The treasure is physically inside the ugly exterior, and you will never find it unless you stop judging rocks the way you judge everything else in your life. Let's keep going, because it gets even more surprising. Opal is widely considered one of the most beautiful gemstones on Earth. The way it refracts light internally, creating flashes of red, green, blue, and orange, is a phenomenon called play of color, and no two opals produce the same pattern. High-quality opals can sell for over $10,000 per carat. Some black opals from Lightning Ridge in Australia have sold for over $100,000 for a single stone. And where do they hide? Inside, some of the ugliest, most unremarkable ironstone you've ever seen. If you visited Lightning Ridge and someone handed you a piece of rough opal matrix, you would see a brownish-gray chunk of sedimentary rock that looks like it came from a construction site. The opal is embedded inside, sometimes visible only as a faint shimmer along a fracture line, sometimes completely invisible until the rock is carefully cut and polished. Professional opal miners in Coober Pedy of South Australia live and work underground in abandoned mine shafts. They sift through tons of pale, chalky sandstone looking for that one flash of color. They call it potch when they find opal material that doesn't have the play of color. And even experienced miners will tell you that some of their biggest finds came from rocks they almost discarded. Almost discarded. Think about that. A rock worth $50,000 almost ended up in the reject pile because it didn't look special from the outside. Now, here's one that might actually apply to your property. Jade is one of the most culturally significant gemstones in human history. In China, high-quality jade has been valued above gold for thousands of years. Imperial jade, the deep emerald green variety known as jadeite, can sell for millions of dollars at auction. And in its raw form, it looks like any dark green river rock you'd find in a creek bed in Northern California, British Columbia, or parts of Wyoming. The surface is usually weathered, dull, and covered in a brownish rind. People walk past raw jade constantly in rivers across the Pacific Northwest. Some of them have been doing it for years without ever realizing what they were stepping on. The way to identify potential jade in the field is surprisingly simple. It's denser than most rocks of similar size, so it feels heavier than you'd expect. It has a waxy or soapy texture when wet, and if you shine a flashlight against a thin edge, real jade will sometimes transmit light with a faint green glow. But if you never pick it up because it looks like every other river rock, you'll never get that far. And then there are meteorites. This is where things get genuinely absurd. A meteorite is a rock that survived entry through Earth's atmosphere and landed on the surface. Some of them are billions of years older than anything else you'll ever hold in your hand. They contain minerals that don't naturally occur on this planet. And certain types, particularly palisite meteorites that contain olivine crystals suspended in iron-nickel matrix, are among the rarest and most valuable natural objects on Earth. A single gram of a rare lunar meteorite can sell more than a gram of gold. Some meteorites have sold at auction for over $1 million, and from the outside, most of them look like a burnt, crusty, dark-colored rock that you'd assume fell off a truck. The fusion crust on a fresh meteorite, formed by the intense heat of atmospheric entry, gives it a charred, rough appearance that most people would associate with industrial waste. If one landed in your backyard, there's a very real chance you'd mow around it for years without ever knowing what it was. In fact, that has happened. Multiple times. Documented cases exist of meteorites being used as doorstops, paperweights, and garden decorations for decades before someone finally realized what they were. One family in Michigan used a meteorite as a doorstop for over 30 years. When a geologist finally examined it, the rock turned out to be worth over $100,000. It had been holding a screen door open since the 1980s. So here's the real question. Why do we keep making this mistake? Why does the human brain consistently equate ugly with worthless? Part of the answer is evolutionary. For millions of years, our ancestors survived by making fast visual assessments. Bright colors on a frog meant danger. Shiny water meant fresh drinking supply. Our brains learn to sort the world into categories based on surface appearance, because stopping to investigate everything would have gotten us killed. That system works fine in the wild. It does not work in geology, because the Earth doesn't package its treasures in pretty boxes. It wraps diamonds in grease. It hides opals in sandstone. It buries jade under river mud. And it drops meteorites from space and coats them in what looks like burnt charcoal. The next time you're walking along a trail, a riverbed, or even through your own backyard, try this. Pick up a rock that you would normally ignore.
Feel its weight. Look at its texture. Scratch it against a piece of glass. Hold a light behind its edge. You may not find a diamond, you probably won't find a meteorite, but you'll start training your brain to do something most people never learn, to stop judging value by appearance. And honestly, that lesson is worth something whether you ever find a gemstone or not. If you just learned something about a rock you've probably walked past 100 times, you're going to want to see what else is hiding in plain sight. We cover the stones, minerals, and geological secrets that most people overlook every single day. Subscribe and turn on notifications so the next discovery doesn't pass you by the way those ugly rocks have been doing your entire life.